Good morning. This is Nirudi from Center for Positivity, Wellbeing and Hope. We are presenting Dr. Billy Myers, and she will be talking about coping with stress during the pandemic. Welcome, Dr. Myers.
Welcome, Miss Deep. I'm going to be doing a presentation on coping with stress and emphasizing how stress relates to the pandemic that we've been experiencing.
Thank you so much. And Dr. Myers, tell me a little bit about yourself.
I'm a professor at Northwestern State University and also a clinical psychologist. I've been licensed as a clinical psychologist for 1 year, and but I've also had a variety of mental health experiences as a licensed professional counselor since 2008. Um, I've worked in a number of settings, including mental health facilities as well as the VA. I've had some training at the VA. And one of my most recent experiences was working on a physical rehabilitation unit, helping individuals adjust and also helping by doing a cognitive rehabilitation to help people who experienced strokes, traumatic brain injuries, and other various difficulties, including even orthopedic issues, helping them to adjust to issues such as um, leg amputations and things like that.
Dr. Meyer, I read in your resume that you won an award for uh, something related to this work. Can you explain a little bit about that too?
Yes, I did a variety of research while working at the physical rehabilitation unit, and that particular study was a case study that looked at an individual with it was non-cancerous tumor. Often it's believed that there's not any brain damage. So we what we discovered was that this individual, after the immediate effects of the surgery and stuff, was experiencing some difficulty,
Mhm.
um, some subtle difficulties, but not to the extent that it would have affected the person's like uh, regular everyday functioning.
Mhm.
So yeah, so that was a research award I had won at the Southwestern Psychological Association convention through
Mhm.
PsychI. So it was a PsychI award.
And congratulations for that. And I know that you have a doctorate in psychology. And tell me a little bit, what was your focus on that thesis focus on? So we can come to know about your expertise in that as well.
I did my dissertation on shyness and its effects in relationships. I was particularly interested in some of the ambivalence that individuals with shyness tend to experience. So I was interested mostly for that particular dissertation
Mhm.
on how individuals respond, like to physical touch in intimate relationships.
Mhm.
Um, and it was I was looking at the main effects and also the interactions between like partner dependency and shyness
Mhm.
and how those would influence or how those would relate to physical touch. And there was no interaction, but there were main effects. So partner dependency related to touch avoidance
Mhm.
and shyness related to touch avoidance. So I
I
showed them
thought
a
that it was so
series.
interesting work, though. Thank you. And
Mhm.
and again, you have done so many publication, presentation, and also taught many classes. If you would like to share a little bit about those.
Yes. Most of my I did a lot of like poster presentations. Also, I did some oral presentations in my later years,
Mhm.
um, symposiums, and it was on a variety of research topics related to neuropsychology as well as clinical psychology um, and some basic descriptive research. Um, I presented at a number of conferences. Many of my conferences were at Southwestern Psychological Association. I also presented one at APA conference. That was my dissertation. And an international conference in Ireland, which was exciting, both the conference and the opportunity to go and be in that area and do some sightseeing and things like that.
That's wonderful. And what courses are you teaching for NSU?
Right now, I'm teaching physiological psychology, and this summer I'm teaching statistics, so psychology 4400 and psychology 3010.
Mhm.
And then this fall I'll be teaching physiological psychology and research seminar.
Mhm. I truly think that the topic you are presenting it is very prominent in physiological psychology. So today you will be presenting coping with stress during the pandemic. And the first question I have it, please tell us what happens in our body and in our brain when we feel stressed.
Well, basically, in our body, we go through what's commonly called, and what many people or many of you have experienced, which is a fight or flight mechanism. And basically, what that is our sympathetic nervous system becomes activated. So we experience like an increase, like a spurt. You can think of it like a spurt of energy, because it can also be experienced even when we feel excited about something positive that's about to happen, surprisingly. So
Mhm.
both when we're stressed and also when we're excited, this fight or flight mechanism can kick in gear. So our heart rate increases. Also, the stress hormone cortisol becomes increased, and our breathing increases, our blood pressure increases, our muscles. You might feel like your muscles tighten up, or you might feel your chest get tight. Um, I sort of had that experience just as an example. I had that experience this morning, and it's a normal experience for us to have. When my internet was like not working for a little while, and I was like, oh no, because I was going to give a presentation in 30 minutes. So automatic, it's like the thought came to my mind, I am stressed. And so I stopped and I thought, oh wow, I'm about to give a presentation on stress. So this is interesting. So when I had that thought, it's like, okay, so what does stress mean? What stress can mean a number of things. It can mean for each individual person. So the key is to kind of actively listen to that person and think, okay, when they're saying I'm stressed, what are they saying right now? What is their experience like for them? What's going on in their brain? What's going on in their body right now? And what is it like for that person?
Yes, that is wonderful. Like stress, for example, you already had that demo in this morning, internet, right? And
Hmm.
uh, most of the students sometimes experience the similar kind of stress when they have a test. And some students react to that stress differently than the other. Like some student will study whole night to make sure that they are ready for the test, and some students will have that, okay, I am under a lot of pressure. So you are absolutely, I really like that we have to listen to that person, what kind of a stress feeling they are having. So what kind of unhealthy behavior that might result from stress?
And that's the key. That's the key. When we normalize stress, we say stress is a part of everyday life. We wake up, we feel it. we experience it. So the question, like you asked, I think that's a great question because there comes a point where we have a choice. Once we know that we're stressed, there our human choices kick in gear into what am I going to do? What will I do with this stress?
Mm-hmm.
What choices will I make to effectively manage this experience? It's an uncomfortable feeling, it's an uncomfortable experience. So, what am I going to do to manage? And unfortunately, sometimes what happens is some unhealthy behaviors can occur. Um, and it can be a number of different things that we may not realize at first, and then when we stop and look back and we think, wow, I've been watching a lot of TV lately. I've been watching TV 8 hours a day. So if that occurs, then we may say, okay, is this affecting my everyday life? Is this affecting what I do during the day?
Mm-hmm.
So that could potentially occur, or sometimes what people may do is watch the news excessively. Like if they feel really, really anxious about the pandemic, they may want to know about it. And it's important for us to be educated about it and for us to have that knowledge about it. But if we're sitting down watching the same news sitcom in the morning and at 10 o'clock and at 12 o'clock and at 2 o'clock, then and if it's we notice that it's affecting us where we feel worried and anxious, it's sort of like, man, this might not be a healthy behavior for me. This might be something I might want to work on changing or stopping.
Mm-hmm. And I want to add on that, like, okay, make sure that we all should watch whether if we are under stress, what kind of unhealthy behavior we are doing it. So make sure that to be conscious about it. So in then only we will understand that whether we are doing unhealthy behavior or healthy behavior. And what kind of distorted thought might arise from stress?
Um, when we think of distorted thoughts are those negative thoughts that are sort of that both trigger stress, but then at that point we can kind of work on stopping those thoughts. And then we have other distorted thoughts that can just keep stress maintained. Like I had a temporary thought this morning that occurred when I felt stressed. And that thought was, what if I can't do the presentation? And so that was a negative thought, but and when we become aware of those thoughts, we work on changing those thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
um, Thoughts that can really affect someone, especially if they're long term, um, because of stress, could be things like, I'm going to get sick and die from this pandemic,
Mm-hmm.
or my family, a family member that I'm really worried about is
Mm-hmm.
will get really sick and not be able to overcome this.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then it'll be my fault because I visit them or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
So the person may have those thoughts. They may think, when will we, at the time when we were really under stay-at-home orders, uh, the thinking may have been, when will we ever be able to leave our home?
Mm-hmm.
Will we be able to leave?
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, what will happen now that I've lost my job? Will I be able to continue to be in college? Will I be able to continue to take classes? I can't afford this. I won't be able to afford it. Um, will things ever get back to normal
Mm-hmm.
again? So thoughts like that can really um,
Again,
affect
it
us.
can further stress a person, right? More they are thinking like that, that can stress them out even
Yes.
more. So uh, it is interesting and also eye-opening that how our brain work, right? Like one thought lead to the another thought, like negative thought leads to the negative thoughts. So tell us a little bit about what healthy behavior a person should do, or healthy thought he or she will develop or they will develop to cope with stress.
Like I mentioned, we all experience those automatic thoughts, and at that point, it's our opportunity to make a choice to engage in some behaviors or some thought stopping mechanisms to help us effectively cope with stress.
Mhm,
So some of those healthy behaviors that we could engage in or things like, and this is different for each person. So that's why I encourage you to kind of stop and think, what would be helpful for me,
mhm,
um, considering my likes and dislikes, and also what I find to be helpful for me.
mhm,
Um, and one of the main things, and it's focusing on our strengths, focusing on what we're doing well,
mhm,
taking time for ourselves, maybe deciding to do a creative activity, maybe something you used to do in the past that you became busy with, and so
mhm,
you became busy doing other things instead, so you stopped doing those creative activities.
mhm,
So doing something creative, maybe like cooking a dish you hadn't cooked before, but you wanted to try, or trying a new recipe. Um, exercising is a great way to cope with stress. Going outside, of course, while continuing to practice social distancing,
mhm,
which that in and of itself helps us cope with stress
mhm,
because we feel like we're helping others and helping ourselves
mhm.
when we're practicing social distancing. Um, Maybe learning a musical instrument or practicing, uh, and then some other formal behaviors to cope with stress could be things like practicing deep breathing, so deep breathing mechanisms, um, practicing what's called progressive muscle relaxation, and that's where you tense and relax each muscle group um, until you reach that point where you feel relaxed. Stretching can also be very helpful. Dancing, reading. If reading is something that you find relaxing, reading can be another great coping mechanism, as well as calling, FaceTiming a friend, a supportive friend, someone who's positively supportive.
So that is very good advice. And also, like you said it, we all should be very mindful and we should think what we like. Do not just copy what other is saying, right? For some people, maybe reading is a good relaxing activity. For some people, it is walking is a good relaxing activity. But of course, physical exercises always help in coping mechanism. So when a person is doing this healthy behavior, how they will say that, like we understood that what is unhealthy behavior if we are watching 8 hours of TV or news and all that stuff. So what kind of feelings one may experience when coping effectively with the stress?
You may find, like, especially, you may notice your feelings change. So what you will experience is you might experience a sense of gratitude or a sense of peace,
Mm-hmm,
um, a feeling of serenity,
mm-hmm,
or a feeling of appreciation, compassion for others, empathy.
mm-hmm,
Um, you may feel relaxed, relieved.
mm-hmm,
Um, and some of that also even relates to the physiological changes that we experience whenever our stress level starts to decrease, and then that's whenever our parasympathetic nervous system kicks in gear, where our heart rate decreases and our blood pressure begins to decrease, and so we may feel a little more relaxed and relieved. um, and it's a time for us to be gentle with ourselves, to rest, um, rejuvenate, so that we can get back to um, to doing what we need to do to take care of ourselves.
Very nice, like gratitude and like your heart will tell you that you are feeling good, right? That is and again, if we can practice these things that you are talking about, even when there is no stress, so we will be ready when the stress will be, then we will be aware of the stress and how to deal with that stress. That is wonderful point that you mentioned it today. Tell us a little bit last thought that you want to share with the audience.
When we experience stress, which is a part of our life, it's important for us to get engaged in behaviors that promote our life. So behaviors that help us to focus on the here and now, that promote hopefulness, well-being, foster positivity. Behaviors that help us to focus on our strengths.
Mhm.
Not just behaviors, but thoughts too. Thoughts that help us to focus on our strengths.
Mhm.
Doing things that help us to grow. Because when we engage in these behaviors, we notice that our feelings change and our thoughts about the future change, and we begin to experience more hope about what might happen. Even as we're in phase one and moving on to phase two, it's kind of like when you're looking down a tunnel and you see a light at the end, and we're walking through that tunnel, and we're like, we will get there. We will arrive at that point. And in the process, we'll take each day as it comes, and enjoy the positives each day that happen.
Very, very good point. You mentioned about how we can stay positive and that can help our lower the stress, how be hopeful, and how to practice some kind of a well-being behavior. And also you talk about that how to see the light at the end of the tunnel and enjoy each day. And if you have audience, if you have any question about this topic, please send it to positivity@nsula.edu, and on the subject line please write Dr. Billy Myers at NSULA. And please, I will post this presentation on our website www.nsula.edu positivity. Please visit this website. And for the closing, I will say how we think and react to a stressor will decide whether we overcome the situation or drown in the situation. Choice is our, and I would like to say best wishes to all the audience. So make sure that choice, what Dr. Meyer was talking about, have a positive choices, healthy behavior, healthy thoughts, and be hopeful. So we will overcome the situation and be successful. Thank you so much, Dr. Myers, for your time and for your wisdom. I truly, truly appreciate, and I know that our audience, our NSU family, will enjoy your wisdom and whatever you shared today. And any feedback, please email me positivity@nsula.edu. And Dr. Myers, I would say thank you so much for your time today.
Of
Thank,
course, I enjoyed the experience, and thank you as well.
thank you.